Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Good morning. Prime Minister Davis says register to vote by Easter as he signals the election is very near. Plus, the Prime Minister to give a national address this morning. Freeport licensees want answers on the Grand Bahama Power Company. And a PLP MP says we should have a fixed election date. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. Don't you know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Friday, March 27th, 2026. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Also this morning, we're going to be talking with the Life for Key Foundations about the second year of the Peter George Galandras Heritage Scholarship. Applications are now open, and later in business, it's our monthly series with Clifton Heritage Authority, and we are talking about women's history and women of African descent and the impact they've had on the history of the Bahamas, and a whole lot more. That's all ahead. But first, it's time for the Overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, Prime Minister Philip Davis advising Bahamian voters to register before Easter. The Prime Minister speaking yesterday saying, quote, "Stay tuned. I'm transparent and people are reading the tea leaves, and if they are reading the tea leaves, they will be able to deduct that what is happening," referencing residents who have not yet registered to vote. Davis said, quote, "They should try to get registered before Easter." Easter just about a week away. Though Davis has been tight-lipped on when the general election might be called, members of the PLP have hinted that the election will be called shortly. PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell has said that the general election is weeks away. Last Friday, as Davis urged members of the PLP to reach out to every voter, he said the country is on election watch. The Freeport Licensee Association calling on the government to explain how it will recoup the borrowing costs associated with the acquisition of the Grand Bahama Power Company, while also lowering power bills for consumers on Grand Bahama. The FLA, which represents a group of businesses operating as licensees under the framework of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, released a statement yesterday with this question for government, among several others, and it says the government must answer if Grand Bahamians are to understand and support the government's move. The group released a list of questions for the government regarding its bid to take over GBPC. They want to know if the current valuation of the company is reasonable in the context of its performance and profitability, if the company can sustain new loan obligations while also reducing the cost of electricity, what are the additional capital requirements being discussed by the government, and how the transaction will affect medium and large businesses already facing high energy costs impacting investment decisions, and what the government means when it says that it wants to bring the public interest closer to the center of decision-making. United States Trade Representative Ambassador Jameson Greer announcing that the agency has launched an investigation into the acts, policies, and practices of 60 countries, including the Bahamas, relating to their failure to impose and effectively enforce a prohibition on the importation of goods produced with forced labor. The USTR says forced labor may be understood as work or service extracted from a person under the menace of any penalty for its non-performance and for which the worker does not offer himself voluntarily. The event focused on the U.S.'s 60 top trading partners. The USTR said some countries adopted measures intended to stop the importation of sale of goods produced using forced labor. However, it says none of the countries subject to the investigation appear to have adopted and effectively enforced a forced labor import prohibition to date. Prosecutors have dropped murder and attempted murder charges against a man accused of a 2023 shooting. The decision to discontinue the case against Miguel Lewis coming after several police witnesses testified at his trial before Acting Justice Roberto Reckley and a 9-member jury. It was alleged that on July 25, 2022, Lewis and Kendrick Lewis set out to kill 4 other men in Pinewood Gardens. However, Kendrick allegedly got in the line of fire and was killed by mistake. The alleged targets of the shooting, Donald Cox, Leander Cox, Marquin Williams, and Randy Mackey, were not injured in the incident. And a judge has modified bail conditions to make it easier for a man who's been detained for 4 years without a trial to be freed on bail. Gerardo Marshall has remained in custody despite his bail being set at $30,000 last April. Justice Janine Weish Gomez yesterday refused to reduce the bail sum, but increased the number of suretors from 2 to 3. She also said that the suretors would be able to sign bail while using job letters. Marshall has to surrender his passport to the court, wear an ankle bracelet, keep a curfew, and sign in at a police station 5 days a week. He faces charges of murder, attempted murder, armed robbery, and receiving. The charges stem from an incident that took place on January 18, 2022. Claudette Capron was on the way to a prayer meeting at Resurrection Power Kingdom Ministry when she was struck in the chest by bullets that were allegedly intended for Antoine Adderley and Amelia Ramsey. He's also accused of robbing a man of a Honda Fit that was allegedly used as a getaway car. Overseas, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in France meeting his Group of 7 foreign minister counterparts today after U.S. President Donald Trump attacked NATO countries over their reluctance or refusal to take part in the war in Iran, a conflict that some of America's closest allies have met with deep skepticism. Rubio will have a hard time trying to sell the other top diplomats from G7 countries on the U.S. strategy for the Iran conflict, to which almost all nations have raised objections. On his arrival at the meeting venue at an historic 12th century abbey outside of Paris, Rubio posed for a group photo with his fellow foreign ministers, but none of them spoke. Trump's comments about NATO during a cabinet meeting on Thursday will likely make it even harder to convince them of the G7 nations besides the U.S. Britain, Canada, France, Germany, and Italy are members of the transatlantic military alliance. Japan is the only one that's not. Rubio left Washington for the G7 meeting just hours after Trump complained bitterly about NATO countries not stepping up to help the U.S. and Israel in the Iran war. Meanwhile, Israel launched a new wave of strikes on Iran and threatened today that its attacks will escalate and expand after U.S. President Trump claimed talks on ending the war were going well and gave Tehran more time to open the Strait of Hormuz, though there have been no signs of Iran backing down. With stock markets reeling and economic fallout from the war extending far beyond the Middle East now, Trump is under growing pressure to end Iran's chokehold of the Strait, a strategic waterway through which a fifth of the world's oil is usually shipped. The United States has offered Iran a 15-point proposal for a ceasefire that includes relinquishing control of the strait, but at the same time has ordered thousands more troops to the region, possibly in preparation for a military attempt to wrest the waterway from Iran's tight grip. In Israel, air raid sirens sounded loudly as the military said it was working to intercept Iranian missiles in what has been a daily occurrence now. Israel's defense minister said Iran will, quote, pay heavy, increasing prices for this war crime. And with the war comes a worsening hunger crisis in other parts of the world, including Somalia. UNICEF says it's getting harder to get supplies to keep one of its camps surviving. The displaced have fled drought that has ravaged swaths of this Horn of Africa country after 4 failed rain seasons. Their crops and livelihood devastated. Aid workers at a special camp say the raging war in the Middle East, more than 3,000 kilometers or 1,800 miles away, has made their work harder, disrupting supplies and sending fuel costs soaring. UNICEF says it is $15.7 million worth of life-saving supplies, including therapeutic food, vaccines, and mosquito nets, in transit or being prepared for delivery to Somalia. But those shipments now are uncertain. Transport costs could rise by 30 to 60%, and even double on some routes, while delays caused by rerouting and backlog become more likely.
This is Sports Update.
In sports, the Lady Panthers women's volleyball team and the Warhawks men's volleyball team both have a commanding 2-0 lead against their respective opponents following games on Wednesday in the 2026 New Providence Volleyball Association Best of 5 Championship Series. What's going on at the D.W. Davis Gym? The Lady Panthers, the reigning champions, defeated the Lady Warhawks 3-0 to lead the women's Best of 5 Series 2-0. The Panthers won Game 2 25-10. 25-12 and 25-18. Prior to Game 2, the Panthers narrowly won Game 1 of the series 3-2. In the men's division, the Warhawks on a path to upset the pennant-winning Technicians in the men's championship series. Both teams had a hard-fought battle, but the Warhawks turned back the Technicians 3-2 in Game 2 to now hold that 2-0 lead. A trio of Bahamian professional and collegiate athletes were in action overseas this week. Bahamian women's professional tennis player Sydney Clark tried her hand at the 2026 International Tennis Federation's W15 tournament staged in Chile. Clark kicked off her tournament experience by earning a first-round win over Chilean Celeste Salas in the qualifying draw. She prevailed in straight sets with identical scores of 6-3. Her run continued in the following round against Argentina's Agustina Grassi. She had to work much harder this time, but still came out on top. 0-6, 6-3, and 10-8. The 24-year-old tennis pro's only loss in the qualifying draw came in the third round against the host nation's Ivana Martinic. She came up short in straight sets, 3-6 and 1-6. Clark making it all the way through to the qualifying draw and received a bye in round one before facing the host nation's Florencio Massardo Brain. She lost both sets by identical scores of 4-6 in round two of the main draw. Bahamian tennis players Michael Major Jr. and Gerald Carroll were also in action for their respective universities. You can read more on that in today's Guardian Sports section. From NCAA March Madness, number 2 seed Purdue getting past 11-seeded Texas in a thrilling game, beating them at the buzzer 79-76, making it out to the Sweet 16. 9th-seeded Iowa continues its improbable run, beating Nebraska 77-71, reaching the Elite Eight. And Illinois clamping down on Houston for a 65-55 win. And in other sports news, transgender women athletes are now excluded from women's events at the Olympics after the IOC agreed to a new eligibility policy Thursday, which aligns with U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order on sports ahead of the 2028 Los Angeles Games. The IOC saying that, quote, eligibility for any female category event at the Olympic Games or any other IOC event, including individual and team sports, is now limited to biological females. The IOC said it will be determined by a mandatory gene test once in an athlete's career. It's unclear how many, if any, transgender women are competing at an Olympic level. No woman who transitioned from being born male competed at the 2024 Paris Summer Games, though weightlifter Laurel Hubbard did at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021 without winning a medal. After an executive board meeting, the IOC published a 10-page policy document that also restricts female athletes, such as two-time Olympian champion runner Caster Semenya, from with medical conditions known as differences in sex development, or DSD. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. Your first look at weather for today brought to you by Star General. High pressure will dominate the weather over the Bahamas through late Saturday. Moderate to fresh winds and light to moderate seas will prevail across the country. Passing showers and possible thunderstorms will continue in the central and southeastern islands, while an upper-level trough will slowly drift south of the area. We've got a lot happening over the next few days. We'll tell you about that in just a bit. But for today, there remains a light to moderate risk of rip currents affecting all Atlantic and Atlantic-exposed beaches. Through Saturday afternoon, beachgoers and swimmers in these areas should continue to exercise caution. From Saturday evening, swimmers in all areas are to stay out of the water in these areas, in all areas, actually. For today, partly to mostly sunny conditions, turning fair tonight for the northern and northwest Bahamas. Only about a 10% chance of passing showers. Winds east, southeast at 10 knots or less, becoming light and variable tonight for the northern islands. For the rest of us, including New Providence, northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots. For the central and southeast Bahamas, look for a mix of sun and clouds, and even cloudier for the extreme southeastern islands. A 10 to 30% chance of isolated showers or thunderstorms for the central islands. 20 to 40% chance of widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms for the southeastern islands. Winds northeast at 15 to 20 knots for the central islands, northeast to east at 15 to 20 knots for the southeastern Bahamas. High temperatures today, we're looking at highs getting up to around 83, 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight in the mid to upper 60s for the northern half of the country, and upper 60s, low 70s for the central and southeast Bahamas. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook coming up in just a bit. This weather check brought to you by Star General, insurance made simple.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new
It is time for break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Looking to elevate your gadget game, or a tech trouble simply slowing you down? Escape to a world of innovation at Custom Computers, your go-to store for the latest cutting-edge tech. Whether you need to upgrade your life with the best from Apple and Windows, or your device needs a little TLC, the Custom Computers Know-How Store is the destination for unbeatable expertise and quality repairs. With 2 convenient locations, there's a Custom Computers near you on Patton Street in Palmdale and Caves Village, or call 396-1100.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
You try to rest, but roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers. For window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it, just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located at the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
Hey everyone, get ready for a night you won't forget. It's Z-Live's Far Back Friday Party with host Shivago Lang. Friday, March 27th, beginning at 7 p.m. Join us at Sapodilla Estate for a night of 80s and 90s music, dance, light bites, and refreshing drinks. Get your tickets at the Nassau Guardian between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. $50 per person. Cash sales only. It's Z-Live's Far Back Friday Party. Real music, lots of fun, eats and drinks, and oh so cool vibes. See you there.
It's a milestone celebration at Nassau Tile. Join us March 23rd through the 28th for our 96th anniversary sale. We're celebrating with 20% off store-wide. Plus, get 25% off select wood look and large format porcelain and 30% off select 24 by 24 tiles. Visit our showroom on Dodgewell Street or call 322-2100. For every space, for every style, think Nassau Tile.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. Don't you know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for your smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. Standard text rate supply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Got a lot to talk about this morning, including in our 8 o'clock hour. Life for Key Foundations are going to be here to tell us that applications are open now for the second year of the Peter George Galandras Heritage Scholarship. The deadline is in mid-May, and they are telling us what you need to do right now to be a part of this. Time is going by very quickly. It is practically April, folks. And later in business, it's our monthly history series with the Clifton Heritage Authority. It's Women's History Month, and we are talking about women who've made an impact, women from Africa who've made an impact on the development of this country and where we are today. We're going to get into that and more. That's all ahead. But right now, it's time to talk about what else is in the news. And in the news, very interesting things are being said as we get closer and closer to the assumed date for this general election. The Prime Minister, this is this is a little bit more than what we got a few weeks ago when he said the election is going to be soon. He's telling people register to vote by Easter. Easter's next week. So Sunday is Palm Sunday. Next week is Holy Week. The following Sunday is Easter. It's a short week. It's right. Thursday is the last working day. So, folks, you've been warned. I don't think you got warning with the last one. A lot of people were crying when the surprise snap election was dropped on everybody. But you're getting advance warning now. We're going to talk more about what the Prime Minister said in just a bit, and he's supposed to have a national address this morning at 10 o'clock, and we don't know what that's about. And everybody's wondering what that is going to entail. And I think we're going to try to carry that at 10 o'clock so that you can stay right here and find out what it is. I hope we won't be disappointed overselling it. But anyway, but we'll see. We will see what he has to say at 10 o'clock this morning. So we'll get back to what the Prime Minister had to say in just a bit. There's a couple issues in the news. Often crime stuff, and court stuff gets my attention. And and some other things that were said in the House. So we'll get to that. Let's do the crime and court stuff first. So this is pretty interesting, folks. We heard about this yesterday. Police investigating a shooting incident. So did you hear about this? This happened on Wednesday. A 20-year-old man was injured. Initial reports indicate that just before 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday, Shot Spotter technology detected gunshots in the area of New Hope Drive and East Street South. Following this, police received further information that a man had been shot and responded to the scene. Upon arrival, officers found two damaged silver vehicles, a Toyota Corolla and a Toyota Passo. The investigation so far has revealed that the victim was at a park near New Hope Drive with a group of men when a dark-colored Nissan pulled up. Two men dressed in dark clothing got out of that vehicle, and one of them pulled out a gun and discharged multiple rounds towards the group. The 20-year-old man was struck in his left hand and the middle fingers of his right hand. He was taken to the hospital via private vehicle for treatment. So this is where it gets really interesting. Police visited the hospital where medical professionals reported that the victim had left the hospital and declined further medical treatment. Later, investigators spoke with him. However, he refused to cooperate with the police or provide any details about the incident. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, what do you make of that? All right, so the court stories. There are two in here that are just So, RTZ Davis, prosecutors dropped murder and attempted murder charges against man. Listen to this. Prosecutors have dropped murder and attempted murder charges against a man accused of a 2023 shooting. The decision to discontinue the case against Miguel Lewis came after several police witnesses testified at his trial before acting Justice Roberto Reckley and a 9-member jury. So it was alleged that on July 25th, 2022, Lewis and Kendrick Lewis set out to kill 4 other men in Pinewood Gardens. Right? Miguel Lewis and Kendrick Lewis. However, Kendrick allegedly got in the line of fire and was killed by mistake. The alleged targets of the shooting, Donald Cox, Leander Cox, Marquin Williams, and Randy Mackey, were not required in the not injured in the incident. So what do you think of that? Why would they drop? He didn't intend to kill Kendrick, but he did try to kill the other guys. But they dropped the case. So what does this mean? Is he being tried for something else? Or is he free to go? This is a whole chunk of the story. And he was out on bail too. Okay. Hi. Is there more? That's that. Well, I guess they were related. You did that, and so that's your punishment there. I keep asking, make it make sense to me. Something's missing. This other one here, a judge has modified bail conditions to make it easier for a man who's been detained for 4 years without a trial to be freed on bail. You got that? Gerardo Marshall had remained in custody despite his bail being set at $30,000 last April. It's a lot. Justice Janine Weech Gomez yesterday refused to reduce the bail sum, but increased the number of suretors from 2 to 3. She also said that the suretors would be able to sign bail while using job letters. Marshall has to surrender his passport to the court, wear an ankle bracelet, keep a curfew, and sign in at the police station 5 days a week. He faces charges of murder, attempted murder, armed robbery, and receiving. The charges stem from an incident that took place on January 18th, 2022. Claudette Capron was on the way to a prayer meeting. You remember this story? On the way to a prayer meeting at Resurrection Power Kingdom Ministry when she was struck in the chest by bullets that were allegedly intended for Antoine Adderley and Emilio Ramsey. We talked about this quite a lot on that morning after this happened. Going to prayer meeting and killed by stray bullets. Gerardo Marshall is also accused of robbing a man of a Honda Fit that was allegedly used as a getaway car. But, modifying conditions so that it will be easier for him to get bail. But the trial hasn't happened yet, and we again wonder what is that about? What is that about? Let's get your reaction to these stories so far. 323-6232. Are we really serious around here about our crime situation? 325-4316. But I guess what? You get shot, you want stitches. What? Snitches get stitches, yeah? Or get more of their fingers blown off? 325-4259. Call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us 422-4796. We're dropping charges against people, making it easier for them to get bail, and people aren't talking when they are the victim of crime. What are we doing? What are we doing? And also, have you noticed we still don't know the condition of the officer the off-duty officer who shot the man dead who attacked him allegedly with a cutlass? We don't know his name, not officially. The police have never called his name, never given an update on one of their brothers in uniform. What is that about? Caller, what say you on all these mysteries in the Bahamas today?
Morning, Dwight. How are you?
I'm here. Good morning.
I want you to bear with me. I want to see if I can tie something in, and I will be very respectful. Dwight, I'm old enough to remember during election time, they used to show a movie called Roots. At this age that I am at, sometimes I wonder, why was that movie showed? Because I know in many ways it created hate. But looking now at our country today, among the black race, as you read your news a moment ago, I often talk about the family. But this is deeper than what our eyes can see. It seems like the black race now have black crisis among the blacks themselves. I don't want to develop the attitude of my white brothers hating them, because God will not want me to do that. But I see the hate now among blacks on blacks, not resolving issues, no more conversation. We can look at the homes and see everybody seems to be angry. And there is hardly no spiritual voice to address what's going on with the black race. And this seems to be, as I watch international news, this seems to be all over. And then it appeared to me that when you give the black man a power, a little success, and a little money, it seems like he loses head. I may be wrong. I know you have a professor from the UUB who might be the expert. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but it seems like there is a crisis going on in the black race. Rather than, yes, we know that there's racism among the white. I don't have that to study. But we need to look within ourselves. Like Bob Marley said, have we yet emancipated our mind from mental? That's my 5 cents this morning, Dwight.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I hear you. There are certainly issues. I don't know if it's helpful to look at it from a race issue. Right? There's in a country where one race is the majority of the population, they're going to have a higher, that's just naturally going to have a higher incidence of situations. But we do have a problem. We know we have a socialization problem. We know something is not right. And definitely for the size of this country, the number of crimes is definitely beyond what is considered normal. And it's been like that for years. Yes, crimes are down, and we're trending down in many aspects, and not all. But it's still high for a country of supposedly only 400,000 people. Again, you can look at cities all over the world with a population of 400,000, and they don't have what we have here daily. What's that about? Is it a race thing? I don't know. But is it related to what we were talking about yesterday? And you hinted on it, right? The effects, the long-lasting effects of slavery, is that still having an impact? Caller, what say you? Good morning.
Good morning. Absolutely, it does.
Hmm.
You know, when you look at making it easier for you to post bail, well, you don't post bail with books and pencils. You post bail with collateral. And, you know, if I post bail for you and you break off running, my money gone.
Well, that's a great idea. You have to write a book, write an impressive thesis, write a paper in order to get bail.
Wouldn't that be nice, Dwight?
Oh, wow.
But, Dwight, I want you to look at
Nobody
this
would get
scenario.
bail.
I really want your opinion on this one, okay? Now, we have a U.S. ambassador here in the name. I think he's Mr. Walker. Now, he was able to achieve great success in the shooting of an American citizen,
that
right?
is not fair to say. That is not right.
No?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Was he able to bring the case and charge somebody quickly?
No. If the facts are clear, if you have evidence, they charge. The little boys in the ghetto, in the hood around here, are charged the next day often.
Okay.
And you don't even know how they got the evidence to charge them.
Well, I
So
haven't seen all
let's
the
not go
videos
there.
either.
That's not fair. That's not fair. There are
Okay,
tons of people who say, "How did you already arrest somebody for this?" That happens all the time. There are tons of people right now in Fox Hill arrested
right.
within hours of an incident.
Okay. Are you familiar
And
with
charged.
the Rene Good case where Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent, shot her in a similar situation?
It's not similar at all.
They're not similar at all?
No.
Okay. All right, but I'm glad that you corrected me because I was wondering how come he could advocate for swift justice here and can't do it there.
Well, it's a totally different situation. Again, then that's in the line of duty. Excessive force in the line of duty. This was not in the line of duty and a private, personal issue. Very, very different.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. People need to be fair to our officials, and let's not mix things up. Again, there are tons of people right now rotting away in our prison who are arrested just because you live 5 miles from here and you are a troublemaker. We can charge you tonight. And we're taken to court and charged and are still rotting. Hundreds. But they're poor. And that's the big difference. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Hi, good morning. Are you there?
Morning. How you doing, Dwight?
I'm here.
Okay. First of all, I just want to make mention of just one or two quick things. I'm glad that you just mentioned what you just mentioned, because a lot of folks don't understand that you don't have to be special for you to be charged. Anybody can be charged.
Swiftly in this country.
Anybody can be charged. Now, the problem is, how long does the case takes to get to the conclusion?
Yeah, no, that's the problem.
Another process
Yep.
altogether.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's point number one. Point number two, I think we, for the first time in the Bahamas, we have, during an election time, we've gotten somewhat of a stern clue when election may be called. I don't know if you look at it that way, because based on what everything that is going on and what has been said, especially, okay, you've got to do this before Easter, and normally they give you a good 2 weeks or so before, after which, to do some campaigning.
Might be a little bit more, maybe a little more than 2.
Yeah. I think we get. This is the first time I think we get a little better clue as to how far it is and between what time on average it's probably going to fall.
I think he doesn't want to go down the same road as Minnis.
Yeah,
Minnis hurt a lot of people's feelings. He had been saying he doesn't know of anything happening, any early election, and then he calls it an early election.
Yeah, so if anybody is wise right now, if you think you need any more hints than that, something wrong with you.
Absolutely. Say that again, because people, come on now, right?
Yeah,
you have
something got to be wrong with you
Yeah.
if you don't get the hint right now.
very,
All right.
very true. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You got if you count today, 5 good days. I hope they work all day on Thursday, will they? If you include, they do Saturdays too, though. So 6 good days. Caller, good morning. You're live.
Hey, good morning, Dwight. How you doing?
Doing well.
Just a quick question here. In the case of the young man who was in police custody, whom they were questioning, and he refused to respond or give information pertaining to the matter that he was involved in. From the apparent, it seems as if he would have known, or he may be familiar with the persons who would have perhaps shot him or whatever. Is there a case with the police whereas they can make the case that, okay, well, he's withholding critical information that would help them to solve this matter? Because it goes even slightly beyond that. It simply means that this person, whoever did this, if they should go out and perhaps injure someone else or fatally shoot someone else, then would this person here who withheld the information, could he then be charged with that subsequently to what transpired afterwards? You see, this is the danger when you withhold information, critical information that could help to solve a matter before it perhaps spiral on to another matter. So I'm just wondering if there's something that the police could have held him on, even if it's for 48 hours, to try and squeeze that information out of that person where it protects the public. That's all I wanted to ask. And if you have any information, then fine, share it with us, please. Thanks.
That's great questions. I don't know. They haven't done it, as it appears. But I don't know. Again, if in another case you're going to drop murder and attempted murder charges against somebody who didn't shoot the people he intended to shoot but accidentally shot his accomplice dead, and I don't know if any other charges are against him. This article doesn't say. We can try to find out, but I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. We just like, oh, well, that's between you all. I get. Good morning, caller. You're live on the air. Hi, are you there? Okay, let's take the other call. Good morning, caller. You're live on the air.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Hi. Good morning.
All right. To basically answer the question of the person who you just spoke to, who's going to be the complainant?
But I mean,
the person who's been shot doesn't want to complain or file charges unless there was an issue where he got severely injured and he can't.
But that's not what the police do, though, right? They only investigate when there's someone who makes a complaint. I mean, a crowd was shot at.
Yeah, you got to have a complaint, right? And if the person refused to, give names or whatever the case may be, the police must be able to prosecute the case. And if there's nobody giving, the person who's involved is not giving them assistance, then how are they going to? And I heard the gentleman said something, and that kind of worried me when he said, hold them for 48 hours and pressure them. Now, we know what that means in layman terminology, and he's wrong for saying that.
It doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yeah.
But around here, it generally means that.
Yeah, we know what time it is. But anyhow, I just wanted to say that, you got to have a complaint.
I don't know. I mean, something happened. No one's talking, but question all the witnesses. They probably won't talk either, but I don't know if the police can just let this go like that. They shouldn't. They shouldn't. Thanks a lot. Because, I mean, maybe he wasn't the intended target. And maybe they'll go back after go back again, right? After who they really wanted, maybe. And maybe it'll be around another crowd. And maybe somebody else will get hit. Somebody going to Bible study or doing homework next door. Right? Caller, you are live on the air.
Hello, good morning, Dwight.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, I trust all is well with you, man. I got a question. the case with Zario Major and the young guy from Mason's Edition, I think his name was Evans. Whatever became of those police shootings?
Well, I'm not familiar with the other one, but the Zaire Major, that has definitely gone through the court system. I can give you the latest. I got to check it out exactly what it was. But that one definitely went after the coroner's court. The coroner determined that the police were culpable. I have to get the latest on what the DPP did after that.
Okay. Also, then, Dwight, the next question is, you think they'll ever do something whereas police officers won't be allowed with service weapons when they are out or off duty? Think that they will ever come, because these incidents, they seem to happen more than often now?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's been very helpful. An off-duty officer stopped the crime, has saved people's lives. It happens, right? It's when, as we've seen, when the incident is questionable. Like, what was this? This was not related to something that you stumbled on. This is more of a personal matter, right? And so I don't know. The police are going to have to determine who and when and all the circumstances, but it has been helpful in the past. It really has. It really has. But Erin Green said something amazing on her show, and I think that's very important. If you're going to allow off-duty officers to have their service weapon, they need to be required to wear their body cam as well. Right? So if you want this, you're going to have this on.
Exactly. Yes, yeah. All right, man, thanks. Thanks,
Yeah.
man. Dwight, have a safe weekend.
Thank you. You too. And I guarantee that'll put a stop to off-duty officers with a service weapon. That'll be the end of that. If you require them to have body cam, nobody will want it. Caller, good morning. You're live. Hi, caller. Good morning. You're live on the air. Are you there? Call us back. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us. Facebook us. Text us. 422-4796. Let's get these calls. And we've got a lot of your text messages, too. We'll get to those in just a bit. Caller, good morning. You are live on Morning Blend.
Hey, good morning, Dwight. Sorry for calling back again. I just wanted to respond to the caller who would have called after I would have made my commentary. I wanted to make it clear that the intent of my comment was not to, in any way, shape, or form, intimate that the police would use physical force or breach the individual's civil rights in terms of giving information. I've seen where you could actually use, the intensive interrogation to, after a while, trying to tire that person out to get the information from them. See, my thing is you shot, let's say, for instance, allegedly, you shot into a crowd. You don't know who in that crowd may come back out and retaliate. You don't know if that person who was shot will go back out there and retaliate for being in the mess. I'm looking at it from the aspect that for every action, there's a reaction. And if you are holding information that can help to solve this matter, and you knowingly know that you have the keys to bring this thing to a resolution, then why hold it? I'm looking at the after effect of holding such information where something else may happen. So that was my angle to what I was trying to approach here, okay? Not the amount of that the police get physical with the person, no. For 48 hours, no. Intensive interrogation to get the answers needed to quell the problem. And that's all I was asking. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Well, I don't know. This texter says here, often they don't talk because they intend to retaliate. And if they talk and the person who they believe did this dies, then they become the prime suspect. Oh, well, that's deep. That's deep. Caller, let's hear from you before we get to these messages. Caller, you're on the air. Hi, good morning. Good morning, you're live.
Morning, Mr. John. I have a question. The police commission took over last year, January, and she said that there's going to be a lot of training in the police, new training in the police force, right? Are you aware of any of the type of training that's being done there, or you have any information on that?
I do not.
Okay, because it seems, I mean, it's only been a year since he's been commissioner. But now these issues might have been just arresting her before she came, but it seems
These
like,
things have been happening. Nothing's changed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it seems like we need them, I don't know. I don't know if she needs another year or two. But it seems like we need to go deeper. And we need a total revamp, man. Because, it's not unusual for police officers to be drinking, even on duty.
Oh,
you understand what I'm saying? So I don't know how far the training is going. Things like that. But we have a lot of work to do, man.
Yeah.
And for behemoths on the road, I'm not sure if they're really safe. If they feel safe with their police officers right now. For me, I'm definitely wary when I see police officers with a gun right now. With all the things that's been happening. You understand what I'm saying? So,
on duty or off duty?
I will, or both, because I know some police. You see them on duty and on off duty ones. Like I said, some of them are still going to the bars drinking. I occasionally have a little spirit myself. If you have a little spirit, if you have too much, that can alter your judgment. Mm-hmm. So but what I'm saying is, we definitely need more. We need deeper work done by the Commissioner of Police. Deeper work needs to be done to get to the bottom of this issue of the police force that seems to be endemic in the police force right now. A lot of work needs to be done, I think. So,
thank you very much. Definitely, reform is needed. Reform is needed. Okay, is that caller there, or should we just go to let's go to the text messages. This person says here, read the tea leaves. Are we really serious in this country? Yeah, that's how we talk. And clearly some people get very excited. They love it. They love it. They love not knowing. They just love the excitement. Do you have any idea why it is sometimes, why is it that sometimes ShotSpotter is able to detect gunshots and other times it's not able to? You have evidence that it's not? Or how do you know this? You've proven it? You fired off some rounds and nobody came? How do you know? You might be right. I don't know. I'm just asking how you know this. This person says here, the police press officer didn't know that the Pike truck had dash cams before they addressed the media and pushed their narrative about the guy trying to run over the officer. They didn't push that narrative. They said the officer felt that he was in danger. That's what they said he said. And yeah, I don't think it's right to say they tried to push the narrative. This person says here, great show today, but you always usually have a good show. Okay, thank you. The problem in the black community stems from racial issues. We can't emancipate ourselves mentally until we acknowledge that what racism did to us or what slavery did to us because we were trained to behave in a particular manner. Praise the... okay. Sure, I don't know about that part. But anyway, remember it was always the house... ones versus the field ones. Yikes. And as a result of slavery, we are on autopilot. Okay, that's deep. I disagree with the caller. The state is the complainant. Yes, yeah, exactly. For example, when there is a murder, the victim is no longer alive to bring the complaint, so the state brings the case. Yes, totally agree. They just can't let that go just because the victim doesn't want to talk. People were in danger. People might still be in danger. Right? And we hope the police force won't just drop that. We've got to go to the news. A whole lot more to talk about when we get back. This is Morning Blend on a Friday morning here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Crime doesn't pay, boy. Crime doesn't pay. Don't throw your life away, boy. Crime doesn't pay. If being bad was good, boy, then why they
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app. Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us 422-4796. Standard text rate supply. And now at 8:17, it is time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Sherwin-Williams. Reminding you that if you're looking to paint, your local Sherwin-Williams store has top quality paints, expert advice, and everyday discounts to help you save only at Sherwin-Williams. So we've got high pressure that's dominating weather over most of the country today. That will continue through late Saturday. Moderate to fresh winds and light to moderate seas will prevail over the area. Passing showers and possible thunderstorms are possible for the central and southeastern islands, while an upper-level trough will slowly drift south of those islands. So here's what we're expecting over the next few days. High pressure will drift east over the archipelago through the weekend with an upper-level disturbance forming over Cuba by Saturday. That's going to migrate south and eastwards through the remainder of the weekend, and that's going to support showers and thunderstorms across the southern Bahamas over the weekend. A strong cold front will move into the northern Bahamas by late Saturday as well, or early Sunday, and that's going to produce strong gale force winds as it moves through the islands. And that's going to quickly move out of the area by Monday. Behind the front, though, an expansive area of high pressure will blanket the region through to midweek. So ahead of all that, we've got a light to moderate risk of rip currents affecting all Atlantic and Atlantic exposed beaches. Through Saturday afternoon, beachgoers and swimmers in these areas should exercise caution. Then from Saturday evening, swimmers in all areas should stay out of the water. For today, partly mostly sunny, turning fair tonight for the northern half of the country. Look for a mix of sun and clouds for the central islands and partly cloudy to cloudy conditions for the southeastern islands. Elevated rain chances and even thunderstorm possibilities for the central and southeastern islands today. High temperatures getting up to around 83, 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to the mid to upper 60s for the northern half of the country, between 18 and 20 Celsius. And for the central and southeast Bahamas, lows getting down to the upper 60s, low 70s, between about 20 and 22 Celsius. For your weekend, for Saturday, for the northern and northwest Bahamas, mostly sunny, turning fair at night. But for the central and southeast Bahamas, a mix of sun and clouds, becoming mostly cloudy to overcast during the afternoon hours. Sunday, partly cloudy at first for the extreme northern islands, becoming cloudy to overcast by the afternoon as that front moves through. A mix of sun and clouds for the rest of the northwest Bahamas, and cloudy to overcast conditions for the central and southeast Bahamas, but gradually clearing by the end of the day Sunday. And Monday, partly cloudy to cloudy conditions for the northern half of the country, a mix of sun and clouds for the central and southeastern Bahamas. And that should continue into Tuesday. Again, the greatest chance for rain likely Sunday and Monday. That's your morning blend weather check. Weather check also brought to you by Kalina. Kalina has an important reminder: proof of full-time student enrollment for overage dependents for the spring 2026 semester is past due. Please submit your verification documents via email at healthbenefits@kalina.com by March 31st to stay covered. And time for a check of traffic brought to you by NUA Insurance. So we've got a number of hot spots for you. We've got Mile Butler Highway seeing some heavy traffic as you get north of Fire Trail on the way to Harold Pond. You'll see that traffic there, and that's going to lead all the way up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway. That's northbound. Tonic Williams Darling Highway seeing slow-moving westbound traffic towards that roundabout right now. Then there's Blue Hill Road. Heavy traffic for you near Carmichael and straight through to Robinson. And even north of that area, you'll see that traffic on the way to Big Pond and Cordo Avenue. But especially once you get over that hill to on Blue Hill, you'll see that traffic as you approach that roundabout. And you're looking at issues from multiple directions there. Northbound on Blue Hill Road, eastbound on Tonic Bloom Starling Highway. And again, north of that area, if you continue towards Robinson Road on Blue Hill, you'll see a long line of traffic there. But at Independence Drive, heavy traffic eastbound for you this morning and some slow-moving traffic westbound. Also seeing slow-moving traffic on Robinson Road between Soldier and Old Trail. And that's westbound as usual at this hour. And a bit of congestion at Saunders Beach on West Bay Street, that's eastbound, and east of Arawak Key near Nassau Street heading into downtown Nassau. Back west, we've got Glasson Road seeing some slow-moving traffic, but most of your issues are going to be on the John F. Kennedy Drive side today as traffic is slowly moving along Lake Cunningham eastbound to the roundabout with Bahamar Boulevard and Gladstone Road. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert brought to you by NUA Insurance Agents and Brokers. Get a quote however it suits you. Stop by your nearest branch or get an instant motor quote online at nuainsurance.com. Quick questions for big decisions, they've got you covered.
Marco's is so bad. Don't think small, think big. The big XL deal at Marco's Pizza is just $16.50. One extra large, one topping pizza you'll love at a great price. Big nights need big pizza. Made with our founder's signature sauce, fresh cheese, and fresh dough. Taste the freshness in every slice. Big slices, big flavor, big value. Order now at MarcosPizzaBahamas.com. Go big tonight with Marco's.
Southwest Plaza has so many stores, I've been trying to find a sensible way to list them all. There's CBS Bahamas, the Ashai Institute, BENC Snack World, Bamboo Shack Bahamas, there, the Athlete's Foot and BTC, Games and More, John Bull Fine Threads, Alive, Bahari, Dairy Queen, 700 Wines and Spirits, Sandy's, Clarkson, Island Luck, Starbucks and Lowe's Pharmacy, plus Marco's Pizza and Lorraine. Southwest Plaza, what a wide array of stores. Southwest Plaza, stop by today and explore.
The following is a paid political message.
Kalani, Warring. Hey! Kalani, oh, the future is brighter. Oh, vote for MacGyver. Hey, 'cause she is a fighter. Kalani, hey, the future is brighter. Oh, if you need improvement, come join the movement. Come join the movement. Hey, you're looking for change, find it here. You're looking for justice, find it here. You're looking for truth, find it here. Vote for MacGyver. She's here for you. See everybody in Kalani. Change is here. Hey, hands in the air. See everybody in Kalani. Vote for MacGyver. She is a fighter.
That was a paid political message.
No one likes a fender bender.
Oh, man.
From a little scratch to a full mashup, NUA Insurance has got you covered with auto insurance tailored to fit your needs and budget. For affordable rates with free on-site accident assistance, visit us online or in branch and just ask us. NUA Insurance. Ask us because we've got you covered.
Every day in a busy world, we have to do something with CIBC and get that personal touch. Share your ambitions, let us help your dreams come true. At CIBC, you're at the heart of all we do. We're on your side, we're listening, we know the way you feel. CIBC, ambitions made real.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app. Nassau, Bahamas.
If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with.
We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong with you on this Friday, final Friday, can you believe it, of March 2026. Time, only one man knows the time, the date and the time of the general election, but he's telling us, giving us some hints. He says it's soon, and if you aren't registered yet, register by Easter, which is a week away. So you've got 1 week, less than a week, because it's a short week. It's Holy Week coming up. So I don't know how many more signs and clues you need. Plus, the Prime Minister has a national address at 10 a.m. We're going to carry that. We don't know what this is about, but at this time, everything seems to be very weighty. So, hey. All right, so I want to get through the last year messages on what we were talking about before, about some of the court and crime matters. And then I want to get a little deeper into some things that have been said in the House of Assembly of late. This texter says here, this is something we said earlier. So I mentioned that I really liked what Erin Green said on her show last week, that if off-duty officers want to carry their service weapons, they should be made to wear body cams too. I think that's a pretty good idea. This person says the off-duty officers and body cam is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We are having a knee-jerk reaction to this particular incident. If a police officer finds himself on the wrong side of the law, then he or she will face the consequences. Oh, yeah? The criminals don't turn in their guns when they're off-duty. What does that have to do with body cams, texter? No one's saying. What are you talking about? You haven't made the point yet. We're not saying that they must turn in the guns. You're confirming what I suspect, that if they're required to have body cams, they won't want the guns. Right. Okay. But yeah, you still haven't said why it's the stupidest idea you've ever heard. If the officer was in fear for his life because the gentleman got into his vehicle, how come the vehicle didn't crash after the driver was shot? Well, let's leave that for the court case. But that's interesting. Okay. I hear you. All right. You want to take this final call? Yes, and then we'll get to some other things in the news. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Right. Good morning. How you doing?
Doing well. Good morning.
The police forces.
You're very, very low, John. We can barely hear you.
Can you hear me?
That's much better.
Sorry about that. The police force, in connection with all of the items that keep making it into the news, the off-duty police shootings and the other stuff. You know, I keep looking at the leadership aspect of the police force, and I understand that the commissioner has a boss, but I've not heard the new commissioner articulate any, key set of reforms that she is expected or she's prepared to make to the police force. And the police force is really due for a substantive set of reforms. Mm-hmm. To me, they've been functioning by the very same playbook with more so just occasional adjustments to the status quo. We have long asked, why is it that our police force do not have various levels of de-escalation force tactics. For example, whether it's mace or tasers, or they go from verbal communication with an individual, and the next step is most likely a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't there other levels of engagement in between that? And these are not, in my view, these are not very difficult steps to implement in the police force. Right next door, where a lot of our police officers go for forensic training and all the other training that they do in law enforcement, these conditions exist in Canada and the U.S.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting to me why we've been reluctant to introduce intermediary engagement tactics on the police force.
Well, the last time Wayne Monroe was on the show, he made it sound like there might be some confusion. He thinks that they can and they should have these, but the police force might not know, or the law might not be clear on whether they can. So that has to be cleared up. That shouldn't take long to clear up. That shouldn't be hard to clear up. I don't know.
Dwight.
It's very strange.
Dwight.
Yes, sir.
I mean, come on. I mean, the Prime Minister needed about $200 million for the company in Freeport. You know, many different procedures and steps they had to take in terms of setting up that privatization and public-private partnership initiative to make that happen, and notwithstanding the amount of monies they needed to make it happen, and they made it happen. So every time I hear Wayne Monroe has given a number of very, very soft excuses on a lot of key things. Take, for example, when we asked him about fixed date, the roundabout answer that he gave you, as opposed to Alfred Sayers, who got up in Parliament on his departure speech, granted that it was a farewell speech.
I'm going to talk about that right now.
Sorry?
I'm going to talk about that right now, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said that he supports fixed date and a number of other things that he spoke about.
Yeah.
My point is this, is that a lot of the delays and the twiddling your thumb and sitting on your hands that we see happening in this country is a reflection of poor and dysfunctional leadership. It has nothing to do with the inability to make it happen.
Yeah.
And until such time as we find leaders that are the mere Motleys of the region, and leaders that are the Mark Carney of this region, leaders that are not afraid to make hard decisions, we're going to continually find ourselves in these positions where small little things are kicked down the road and we don't make the progress we need to make.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. So, yeah, let's get to that. We should have a fixed election date. That's a quote, apparently, from Alfred Sayers. This is another sign that the election is very close. Our Rachel Scott writing about this. As the nation prepares for the upcoming general election, the date of which is still unknown by most of us. Fort Charlotte MP Alfred Sayers called for fixed election dates and campaign finance reform. Sayers has been a frontline politician representing the PLP for more than 2 decades, having in the past unsuccessfully sought to lead the party. He is not seeking re-election. So he said yesterday, quote, I have other concerns such as campaign finance reform so that we protect the integrity of our political process because the wealthiest people in the world live right here, and we should always ensure that the money does not determine the outcome, but that the will of the people determines because they're the sovereigns. Speaking in the House on Wednesday night, he said, quote, we should have a fixed election date so that we can bring certainty to the business of our country. As you know, the election is due by October, but is expected to take place much sooner. Prime Minister Davis, like other prime ministers before him, has faced criticism over a lack of transparency as it relates to his plans for the election timing. Sayers' comments, though, making the comments as he gave what appeared to be his farewell speech in the House, thanking those who've supported him over the years, saying, quote, I want to say this may be my last opportunity to speak in this honorable House, and I want to, first of all, express thanks. I stand here as a Bahamian who is overflowing with gratitude. Prime Minister Davis, former Prime Minister Perry Christie, Governor General Cynthia Mother Pratt, and a host of other colleagues, relatives, and friends were among those Sayers mentioned by speech by name in his speech. So he said a little more. He said he's urging action to address gender inequality in Bahamian legislation, saying, quote, there's so much more work to be done, and I conclude by just pointing out that it is untenable in our country, since most of the Buffalo Soldiers I know are women, that to this day women are still discriminated against under our Constitution. I've lived through both attempts at changing that, and this is one of the areas where both sides really need for the national interest to come together and remove the disparate elements of Article 8 and Article 9 of the Constitution, where Bahamian women are treated less favorably in terms of their children born abroad and their spouses. The Bahamian Constitution provides that a Bahamian woman married to a foreign, this is the facts now, not a quote, that a Bahamian woman married to a foreign spouse cannot automatically pass on citizenship to children born abroad. There have been 2 referendums on the issue, one in 2002 under the Hubert Ingram-led F&M government, and a second in 2016 under the Christie-led administration. Both failed overwhelmingly. Former Prime Minister Hubert Minnis, who led an F&M government from 2017 to 2021, promised to address gender inequality related to passing on of citizenship through ordinary legislation, but that never happened. Prime Minister Philip Davis, who was elected in 2021, pledged to address the inequalities through ordinary legislation so as to eliminate the need for a referendum. That also, is this correct, has not come to fruition, as it appears to no longer be in the plans, as many expect that although a general election is not due until October, well, some things were addressed, but at least through courts, right? I guess most of it wasn't, yeah. Sayers, who serves as the Minister of National Insurance and Immigration, said that the issue is of utmost national importance as he called for the implementation of a quota for the number of women in politics. He said, quote, I want to just put in the spirit of this moment the recommendations of CEDAW that the parties of the Commonwealth adopt a temporary special measure such as quotas to increase the representation of women in our political parties. Because when I look at our parliament, it doesn't reflect the population of our country. And then I look at my own life experience. The best prepared in the country are women. The most qualified are women. Wow. Sayers, 7 of the 39 MPs in the House of Assembly right now are women. The only time more women sat in Parliament was in the first Christie administration, when women occupied 8 of the 40 seats. Sayers says it's a mandate that every parliamentarian, irrespective of the party, should be committed to going forward. Sayers had previously said that after more than 2 decades in frontline politics, he will not run in the next general election. All right, let's get your quick reaction to this. We're running out of time. But you can get some calls in very, very quickly. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. All right. These are some interesting text messages. I'm not inclined to read these. Wow. Okay. Anyway, this person's wishing Sayers a happy retirement, and this other text is not nice. Wow. I have thoughts. I have lots of thoughts. I agree with him on all of these things. I don't know what the quote is, but I agree with him on all of these things. We definitely need to have better representation of women in our House of Assembly, without a doubt, and in the cabinet, definitely. And we've been saying this for years: fixed election dates. And Sayers, if you've read his book, so many wonderful ideas, just really could have transformed this country if he had been the leader of a political party. But clearly there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear in going in these directions. I'm not sure why. Not sure why. But plenty of people are very comfortable with the status quo. Very, very comfortable. And I think we will be here for a long time to come. Long time to come. All right, so I don't know what's going on here. These people, okay. These are not nice texts. I'm not going to read these. This person says here, why wait until he's leaving to talk about these issues? He's been talking about them for years. But y'all weren't paying attention. And the people in his own party did not want to hear it. This person says here, as a man with children born outside the Bahamas, I have no constitutional right for my children. Why have we missed that for 50 years? We've not missed that. We tried to change that. We tried to fix that. But if you were married, you would. So, some of you are very angry. I'm not sure what this is about. Let's take these calls quickly and then we've got to go. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hi, good morning. You're live.
Good morning, Dwight.
Good morning. Turn on your radio for us, please.
Okay, good morning. How you doing?
I'm here. Good. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I only called to address one thing when Mr. Sayers' comment about 50 election day, right? He had almost 5 years, and he couldn't suggest that to the Prime Minister.
What makes you think he didn't?
I was more likely, he never mentioned it. What, privately?
Why not?
If he wanted, why didn't he do it publicly so we could know at least he's the
He's a member of the
subject
cabinet. That's not how the cabinet works. But he's...
Okay, but nothing happened then, so don't bring it up now because it's quite obvious that wasn't in their intention. Okay, now that the election is coming up now, you want to make mention, too late. Whatever the Prime Minister is about to say, I don't think Bahamians even listening no more. Okay, because they'll come up at last minute and say the same as when he was coming in the last time. He came up and have his big, and what did he carry those through? What makes you think he can carry through now at this stage? So for one, I'm not going to even be tuning in. I'm not interested. Tune me. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. The views of a lot of the people in the cabinet do not align with what the policy of the government is. We've known this because of things they've said in the past, and we know that they have not changed their views. Caller, good morning. Get the final say on this. Hi, good morning. You're live. Are you there? Yes. Good morning. You're live on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Strachan.
Good morning.
I like Mr. Sayers' mind. He wrote a brilliant article during the pandemic, right? But I just wanted to get this in, and this is no insult on anybody, but I call the talk shows collectively our brains, the Bahamian brains. You listen to the comments, and we all supposed to be learning from one another. But this is between me and you, right? I would like to get your phone number so I could talk to you off air, which would be more beneficial for me, even if just someone knows. People like you and Aaron. But what I'm afraid about is you spoke about status quo, right? But remember that there's status quo narratives and there's status quo biases. But I've noticed that on the rebroadcast, Guardian is censoring what I'm saying. Sometimes I do a small little epitaph, and I noticed that because it's not what everybody wants to hear, it was related to a little poem about the politicians. They censor what I'm saying, and so
it's
I
not
have to express
censored.
myself. It's a part of freedom.
It's not. Nothing is censored.
That's what I'm wondering. Why is it? Why do you have to do that?
Nothing is censored. I guarantee you. Nothing is censored unless you did say something that we do not censor the rebroadcast. No. No, what you might be hearing is a technical thing. That's a different story, but no. Okay. Sir, caller, yes, really quickly. You're on.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Strachan. Good
Hi.
morning. I agree. I, too, agree with the lady before 52. I believe this address that the Prime Minister is about to make, I believe it's a campaign address, not an address to the nation. Whatever he has to say, he should have said it a long time ago. Now he know he's getting ready to call an election. He will do anything or say whatever he want to say to try and win it. I, too, will not be listening. Thank you.
Okay. Folks. I mean, you got to be a little more mature than this, right? I mean, come on. I mean, he could say something that could really ruin your life. But okay. Okay, caller. So all of you are very angry with Alfred Sayers. Oh, boy. Well, I encourage you to get a copy of his book and read it, what he wanted to do. Many people running for office now have big ideas. But when they get in, they're going to see that things just don't go the way they expected it to. And it's a teachable moment. But we're not learning from it. But we wish him all the best. We do. He had some brilliant ideas. But his party was not ready. And someone's saying here he could have gone to another party. I don't know which party that would have been, because none of them seem to be ready for anything. But it's us who needs to be ready. And if we show these folks that we are ready for these big shifts, the parties will eventually fall in line. So are you ready to change the Bahamas? Are you really ready? Or is this working for you perfectly fine? It might not work for you all the time, but maybe you get 5-year chunks. 5 years it works for you, and then 5 years it doesn't. Yeah, but you don't mind because you feast for 5 years and you can withstand the famine for 5. And so that's cool. You don't mind. If you're one of those, well, then you are part of the problem. You really are. But for the rest of you, are you really ready for change? We got to take a break. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
If I had a box just for wishes and dreams that had never come true, the box would be empty except for the memory of how they were answered by you.
Every day in a busy world, we have to do so much. Bankruptcy, IBC, and get that personal touch. Share your ambitions, let us help your dreams come true. At CIBC, you're at the heart of all we do. We're on your side, we're listening, we know the way you feel. CIBC, ambitions made real.
At Star General, you can go gold. Comprehensive car insurance covers loss or damage from accidents, fire, theft, and third-party liability. But the Gold package gives you increased coverage for rental car and windscreen, personal accident, medical benefits, deductible waiver, and 24-hour roadside assistance where available. Our Star General Gold package also gives you up to $2,500 for accidental damage to a rental car anywhere in the Bahamas. Go gold with Star General. Insurance made simple.
This is definitely the time for BAMSI to continue to build on the progress that we have made. There's now drone technology. There's now year-round container farming. You have hydroponics. You have aquaponics. You have precision farming. There have been record numbers of enrollments, record numbers of flat fishing certifications. We've had record enrollments in our online courses. Students from across the family of islands. Because in BAMSI, we are not just cultivating produce, we're cultivating producers.
Paid for by the PLC.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
Sherwin-Williams Bahamas doesn't mess about when it comes to product range and product knowledge.
If it's a new product come in the store, we walk the store and study that product.
One thing with our boss, if a new product comes in, he takes the time and he's always keeping us up to date with product knowledge. And we just had 9 weeks of different products that we had to study, and we had exams at the end of each product.
Yeah.
The only way we could sell the product effective, we have to know that product. Yeah, that helps us to relate to our customers. It gives us better knowledge to know what product to introduce to them. You understand? So we can know what product to give them to use and what product not to give them to use. So product knowledge is really key in Sherwin-Williams.
They got the keys. And the key is the product knowledge that comes with our extensive product range at Sherwin-Williams Paints, Bahamas. Find colour in every day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.
We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong with you on this Friday morning. Changing gears now. The Life Key Foundation's the second year of the Peter George Galandras Heritage Scholarship. The applications are open now. Here to tell us more about this, we're very pleased to have back with us Executive Director Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll and 2025 Heritage Scholar Bjorn Monroe. Good morning. Great to have you with us.
Good morning, Bahamas.
Good morning, Mr. Dwight.
All right, so we talked quite a bit about this last year. Very exciting program. Remind folks what this is all about, Dr. Nicola.
So the Peter George Galandras Scholarship was a new scholarship program that Life Key Foundation launched last year. What it did, it was provided the opportunity for Bahamian craftsmen and craftswomen as well. It's open to both genders to be able to have a 5-month experience with the King's Foundation in the United Kingdom. And I say the United Kingdom because it includes site visits to Scotland and England, and this year will include Wales as well.
Wow, okay.
You get to really experience the amazing heritage and also learn about the building crafts trade in the United Kingdom. And it's an all-expense scholarship. That means we fly you there. We give you the opportunity to the tuition. Also, there's a warm clothing allowance, and all of the things you need to really have the best experience is provided for you.
And how long was it for again? Last year they were
5 months.
Oh man!
The guys left July 10th. It was a wonderful independence departure. We left from the Linden Airport. We arrived in London, and they came back on the 29th of November.
My goodness. This is very exciting. It was all guys last time?
Last year, yes. But
right.
as you said, it's open to all. The only requirement really is you're above 18. So we need you to be an adult and a Bahamian citizen and have some preliminary knowledge of building crafts.
Right.
So some carpentry, woodwork, stone masonry, cabinet making. Just know how to use a little bit of the tools first because that's expected, and then you can participate in this program.
Mm-hmm. Just a little bit, or do you need to? You don't need to be a master.
No. And exactly. We are looking for people who understand a little bit of the tools because that's expected, but they're going to learn a whole lot. And Bjorn was part of the program and was able to learn so much from his experience.
Bjorn, get a little closer to that mic for us. Tell us about this. What made you apply, first of all, and then we'll get to your journey.
Okay, because currently I work in the heritage sector, I'd say, at AMMC.
Mm-hmm.
And so our mandate is to look after historical sites, maintain them. Mm-hmm. And so the opportunity to get heritage craft training in the UK was exciting for me. And so when Life with Key proposed it, I applied immediately.
Yeah.
It was exciting to do so.
All right. So, and what was it like? You left on July 10th, and tell us about these 5 months.
Yes, there was an 8.5-hour flight, which was new to me. It wasn't that bad. And so we arrived in London. We were expecting a lot of rainy weather and stuff like that, but the weather's beautiful the entire trip.
Wow.
We got a little bit cold at the end of it. It started off with a summer school. You get this upcoming students who apply, they're going to be able to get to choose electives. And so they'll choose if they want to do blacksmithing, timber framing, stone masonry. And so they'll get to select that. And in their summer school, they will get hands-on exposure to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you could choose what you want to do.
Yeah. What did you choose?
I did thatch roofing. I did stone wall. I did stone masonry. And so those were my electives that I chose for the summer school.
Why did you choose those?
Because I believe I could have bring them back to our country. We do. And you could look in our architectural style. We use a lot of coral stones in our buildings. We have a lot of stone walls on the Eastern Road in different areas, the Queen staircase that could utilize some repair work and stuff like that. So that skill, I felt would have been essential for me to bring back to our country.
Yeah. So what was the highlight of the trip for you?
The highlight was we actually, in the application, I wasn't expecting to, but we were able to get across to Glasgow, the south of England, Birmingham. We were able to visit everybody. But the highlight, we met the King. The King actually came to see us as a cohort because
met King Charles.
King Charles. He came actually to visit us because heritage and heritage preservation is something important to him. And so this program with Life at Key and the King's Foundation, he is a big supporter of it.
Excellent, excellent. And do you feel like what you learned is going to help you, or is it helping you already in
definitely
your work?
In terms of conservation and management. So, for example, we were trained on the lime cycle, the lime kiln. We have a lot of conch shells just sitting around. We could make provisions in the future to put those conch shells to use to create lime. And we used to build those back in the day on the islands. That's how houses were made using lime conch shells. So we have to bring those back in terms of that knowledge. We have to get that back in terms of the lime process.
Yeah. Wow. So what would you say to somebody listening to this or heard you last year and like, this sounds pretty interesting, but I'm on the fence? What would you say to that person?
I would say tell them take the opportunity because, some of my colleagues in the cohort, we would joke and we saw the flyer last year. We didn't think it was legit because, Life at Key, you don't think Life at Key going to do this for a particular type of person, but Life at Key is all in it for us. And so we really thought it was nothing legit, nothing real. And so that opportunity, when we realized they're fully committed, and so they covered everything. So I would tell them take the opportunity. You get to see that part of the world, and everything is free of charge, covered.
That's wonderful. Okay, Dr. Nicola Virgil, how many people again are you able to take this year?
This year is slightly less, so we know we have space for at least 2. We're going to see what we can do. Last year we had 8, so competition is tight this year. But we want to have, really good applicants. The application process, as you mentioned, is open now. It goes until May 15th. We're really just looking to see people who are very interested in this work. And so you're going to upload a little bit about your skills, you talking about why you want this opportunity. We've made the application very simple. After May 15th, when the application closed, we'll go through shortlist, and then we'll have interviews with the shortlisted candidates. Once we know how many spaces that we have, as I said, we know we have at least 2. And then we're going to get you ready. And so it'll be a quick turnaround period. By June, beginning of June, we're going to let people know where they are. So it's great if they start, telling their employers. Last year, so many of our applicants had the support of their employers. They got references from their employers. And so there was good support there because we want you to be able to come back to your jobs if you have them or go back. And then, we'll make provisions. It's a short course, so really it's not a student visa process. At the moment, you just apply for the ETA from the United Kingdom, so you have to be able to qualify for that. And then, you're on the plane. We make sure that you're there. Last year, the gentleman had an opportunity to meet with the Bahamas High Commission to begin the visit. Yes. And got shown around London a little bit. And then we took the train up to Scotland and got them started into Dumfries House, which is a wonderful property. It's in the Scottish woods, basically. And you're settled there for the first 3 to 4 weeks.
It's a castle or something, right? Is it a castle?
It's a historic building. It's not quite a castle, but Dumfries House itself is historic.
Okay, okay, all right. And you're leaving in July again?
In July again for the summer school. And it's a 5-month process. We're so grateful. Last year we had the support of the British High Commission. The former Commissioner Tom Hartley and Jenny Hartley were instrumental in this process. We continue to have that support from the new High Commissioner. We're grateful. So she visited the gentleman in November last year. She did. And, so it's been a wonderful partnership, in putting this together.
That is wonderful.
We have to give a shout out to Minister Glennis Anna Martin as well. She actually came over there to support us. I think there's no bigger person in supporting and giving words of encouragement. She flew over there to meet us as well.
Wow, so that is amazing.
She gave us great support.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. All right, so remind folks what they need to do, and the deadline, and everything they need to be a part of this.
Yes, so go on to www.lifeforkeyfoundation.org. You'll see a little red tag that says apply. So go on to our applications portal. You'll select that you're interested in the Peter George Galandras Scholarship Program. Mr. Galandras was a board member. Our current chairman is Basil Galandras, who set up this scholarship. We're so very grateful for him for setting up this scholarship to benefit Bahamian young people. And so it's a very simple process. Just have, fill out the application form, upload a video of yourself and your skills and why you want to be part of this program, and leave the rest to us. We will do a fair selection. We have a selection committee made up of skilled persons who will be able to evaluate, all of the applicants. And then once they're selected, we just make sure that you're ready to go and get on that plane. And we just ask you to come and just be ready to absorb all of the information you're going to learn. And it's a very hands-on program.
And refresh, am I wrong? Last year, I remember you saying this is only for a limited time. Is that right?
This is an endowed program. So we're going to be doing this annually.
Oh, okay.
And so we were able to, have a very nice, very large gift established.
Excellent.
And that allows us to be able to support young people, or I shouldn't just say young people, it's open to all, in experience.
So I wouldn't
like
be
this.
too old.
No.
This is the first time anyone's come on the show, and I would not be too old to do
We've had all ages participate. We had experienced workers participate last year.
Mm-hmm.
We had people still in BTVI. So we've had lots of experiences, and you never know where this can lead, right?
Yeah.
Beyond, I think he has some wonderful news.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You got to share it.
Well,
Can you share it
one
with
of
us? Get right into the mic and share
Definitely. One of the locations that we visited in Birmingham, we visited University of Birmingham, and I applied while I was over there, and I was accepted into the International Heritage Scholarship Program for a master's degree. Starting in September.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's great stuff. And how long are you going to be there?
That's a one-year program.
1 year?
Master's program.
Okay. And then what's next? What are the plans?
I'm thinking about doing some heritage research into our historical buildings. There's the tangible, the assets of the science surrounding it to preserving those buildings. And so this master's degree will help me be able to do that in terms of research and documenting all of our historical buildings in our country.
That is fantastic. Okay, we're looking forward to some great stuff coming from you in the very near future. Thank you. And again, congratulations. Great stuff. One more time with the website and on how people can learn more and apply.
It's www.lifeforkeyfoundations.org, and it's open to all. Most of our applicants were in the construction sector, working, and then went back to their construction businesses. We had cabinet makers, stone masons, wonderful woodworkers, general construction workers. And so if you just want an opportunity to improve your skills, this is the program for you.
Okay. Great stuff. Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, always a pleasure seeing you. Thank you for being here. Bjorn Monroe, congratulations again. Thank you. And what a wonderful, wonderful bit of news this morning. All right. We're going to go to the news, folks, and be back with more after that. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
And stronger than the wild tree. That's how I will hold you, darling, endlessly.
New roads and airports are connecting our islands. Energy reform is bringing electricity prices down, while young Bahamians are stepping up, gaining new skills for new opportunities. Respect for workers. Support for entrepreneurs. We're modernizing energy and infrastructure across our islands and preparing Bahamians to succeed in a new economy. Transformations this big take time. Let's choose progress. Paid for by the PLP.
It's back, Agri-Expo 2026, presented by the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, April 10th through 12th at the Gladstone Road Agriculture Center. Agriculture, our heritage, our future, comes alive with the latest farming technologies, exciting cooking demonstrations and competitions, Bahamian farmers and vendors from across the islands, fun for the kids at the kiddie corner, nightly musical concerts, and free admission for everyone. Bring the whole family and celebrate what feeds our nation. Agri-Expo 2026. Let's get growing.
Put more money back in your pocket with the Fidelity Debt Consolidation Loan. Why pay more when you can pay less? Reduce your monthly debt payments down to one low, easy payment. Apply for a Fidelity Debt Consolidation Loan today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.
It's a milestone celebration at Nassau Tile. Join us March 23rd through the 28th for our 96th anniversary sale. We're celebrating with 20% off store-wide. Plus, get 25% off select wood look and large format porcelain and 30% off select 24 by 24 tiles. Visit our showroom on Dodgewell Street or call 322-2100. For every space, for every style, think Nassau Tile.
This is definitely the time for BAMSI to continue to build on the progress that we've made. There's now drone technology. There's now year-round container farming. You have hydroponics. You have aquaponics. You have precision farming. There have been record numbers of enrollments, record numbers of flat fishing certifications. We've had record enrollments in our online courses. Students from across the family of islands. Because in BAMSI, we are not just cultivating produce. We're cultivating producers.
In the world of business, technology is not a choice, it's a necessity. And for businesses that demand excellence, there's only one choice for unparalleled support and cutting-edge technology. Custom Computers. You have challenges and we have solutions. Computing, networking, storage, and printing for enterprises large and small, aligned with premium brands like HP, Microsoft, Konica Minolta, and more. Get tech done the right way with Custom Computers. Call the Know-How team at 396-1101.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Friday, March 27th, 2026. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. It's that time of the month, every fourth Friday, our history series with the Clifton Heritage Authority. And today we're focusing on women. women. It is Women's History Month,
Yes.
right? And we're looking at influences from Africa here, women from Africa on the Bahamas. And very happy to have back with us, as always, Christopher Davis, and also Joanna Parker is back. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, Dwight. It's great to be here.
Good morning to both of you.
Yes, thank you, brother.
Okay, so let's talk about the inspiration for this topic today.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is actually centered around, you remember last year, we had the first unveiling of the first phase of the Sacred Space exhibit dedicated to her story in the Bahamas, with a focus on the plight of African women in the Bahamas, essentially during those proverbial days of slavery, late 18th century to the mid 19th century, in the context of the Bahamas. And of course, initially the space was done by Mr. Antonius Roberts. Many people are familiar with his style of statues that he did out of the Casuarina trees. And 21 years ago it would be now, he actually did that sort of in conjunction with the Clifton Heritage Authority Act. And that was one of the first things that sort of marked what is now Clifton Heritage Park. Right. And then last year, myself, the current MD, and others, we sort of came together. This was something I had in the works for quite some time. And it sort of manifested organically through all of the research I've been doing throughout the years. And even in my book, I ended up having to do a chapter just on women. I was just like, man, it's just too much. These women need their own chapter. And that's what happened. Right. And many of the characters, I should say the people that are portrayed at the Sacred Space came from that chapter of my book, with some additions that are specifically related to Clifton Heritage Park when it was the Wiley plantation. So that was the sort of inspiration for it. Many of these figures are also now in the curriculum. And I'll probably pass on to Ms. Parker so she could talk a little bit more about that. And I'll focus more on the people themselves and their stories.
Right. Okay, Joanna Parker.
All right, for our Bahamian high school history students, part of their curriculum content, or some of the curriculum standards, are now focused around what is known as her story. So as opposed to history, where a lot of the prominent figures under study are men, right, and their impact on national development and culture, we're focusing on the impact of Bahamian women on Bahamian history and culture. So that's her story, and that's a strand of history that's often either understudied or underpromoted. And so at Clifton,
that's amazing. As a kid, when you're in history, here all you learned about was what? Anne Bonny, the one woman I remember.
Mary Read,
Anne Bonny. Right, that's it.
And those, of
Pirates.
course, are European women, or women of European extraction.
Not until you get to the 20th century do they mention women at all.
Women's suffrage in a little tiny bit in the middle of the road to majority.
Thank God this has changed, finally.
But
kudos
at
to all
Clifton
of
Heritage, we're throwing it back into the 19th century with women who are deeply embedded in the stories of resistance against enslavement. And enslavement was a huge institutional barrier, centuries of cruelty. But all through that, we have women's story of them resisting. And let's be honest, women had the least amount of power. Wow. Yep. They didn't really exist legally. They could not testify on property. And in the midst of this, they're still pushing back. And so that's an important story that we want to tell at Clifton, and particularly to our school-age children, so they can see themselves and understand that all aspects of our society, women, men, through the gender line, resistance happen.
Wow.
Certainly.
Okay. So who are these women? Who are some of these women?
There's one or two of them that we probably wouldn't be good if we share them on the radio. They're very heavy, and we also, of course, ensure like if we have like some primary school kids, there are certain stories that we don't focus on. So stories that will make you cry, but there are also stories that will make you laugh, that will make you hold your head up in pride. But the real thing that these stories does is show the resilience of these women, the cleverness of these women, the adaptability of these women. And what we did too was we selected Adinkra symbols. So the most famous ones would be like the Sankofa bird, for example. But these are all sort of quasi-alphabetic, quasi-hieroglyphic symbols that come from the Akan people of Ghana, where Chankanu and other things also comes from, right? And they all have these symbols that represent qualities in life. So the overall theme is Tuafe, which means feminine qualities, which usually talks about beauty and, smelling nice and taking care of children, right? But in this case, as Ms. Parker alluded to, we talk about their resilience, their courage, their intelligence, their adaptability. And that brings me to one of my personal favorite stories in there, Cynthia Lightbourne, who was enslaved by a man named Benjamin Lightbourne. She was a quote-unquote domestic. And she was and this actually occurred right there on Cumberland Street. And as I was scouring the newspaper, as historical nerds like me love to do, just randomly scouring it, I came across essentially a death sentence for a teenage girl named Cynthia Lightbourne for setting fire to her master's house. And again, right there on Cumberland Street.
What year would this have been?
This would have been 1825. June, if my memory serves me correctly. As a matter of fact, in the 1820s, there was a lot of arson, half of which was done by women, though some of them were unnamed and the like. But Cynthia Lightbourne in particular intrigued me because for like a week or two, they had people talking about her and how horrible she was and all that. Then all of a sudden, everything went cold. So, of course, I then went to the Register of Enslaved People in the Bahamas and found that in 1828, she was still there.
Okay.
But I noticed something. She had 2 mulatto children who, though these were the children of her enslaver, who were still on the slave register. Right? So it shows you a very sinister side of slavery that affected women probably in particular, where enslavers would, forcibly cohabit with women who they enslaved.
Right.
And even their own children would be enslaved, right? But what I realized as I did more research was this woman knew that she was pregnant after being assaulted by her enslaver. And there was a law that you can't execute or export a pregnant woman, right, at that time. And she knew this law. So it sort of shows this level of political acumen. And though I'm sure she was brutally punished through the course of that, she also knew that punishment would have been lessened by the fact of her pregnancy, and particularly being pregnant by a white man at the time, right? And so
how old would she have been?
She was
a teenager.
Yeah, she would have been about 18 years old. When she pops up again in the 1828 register, I believe she's about 22 or 23, with 2 mulatto children. And that is why she was executed, and that is also why the newspapers just went super quiet on the matter all of a sudden. This is before the days of Guardian, so y'all wasn't guilty in this one.
No. And she would have been a Lightbourne with an E or a Lightbourne without the E?
Well, that's a funny question, but I believe it was with the E. I believe it was with the E. Yeah, I believe it was with the E. But it was right there on Cumberland Street that this occurred. And then you have someone like Agar Scriven, who I would draw a parallel to Harriet Tubman, right? And so when we talk about the Saltwater Underground Railroad, as there was the Underground Railroad, a system and networks of freedom run by free citizens, pastors, preachers, church congregations, even a few white people involved that allowed African Americans to find freedom in Canada. There was a similar system, though this one was almost exclusively run by blacks, that came to the Bahamas.
Right.
We
told us about this last month.
Right. Much of this, of course, as we mentioned, is centered around Meeting Street, in particular, what is now Bethel Baptist Church and St. John's Native Baptist Church. Wow. And the church was famously founded by Sambo Scriven. And as I mentioned the last time, there are several runaway ads and colonial reports about these Negroes pretending to be free and all of these things. And people calling Sambo even by name, saying, when these Baptists run away, go check Sambo Scriven's meeting house, which is now Bethel Baptist Church. But of course, they all overlooked the first lady, the first lady of the Independent Baptist Church, which was the first Baptist church in the English Missionary Society, wouldn't come until 40 years later. Bill and Zion Baptist and all that stuff, but that's another story, right? But this woman was essentially the linchpin of what became the Saltwater Underground Railroad, and I could make a parallel even with the general strike in 1958, where the role of women was totally overlooked. There's a man from Fox Hill who I love to quote, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but I did a lot of interviews with him because he could vividly remember like the 50s and the 60s, right? And he told me out of his own mouth that women were really the ones that Of course, Clifford Darling was like the leader, the key negotiator. Of course, the late, great Randall Fowles was involved as well. But it was the women, because he was like, man, for the first 3-4 days of that big strike, everyone was having fun, having a couple of drinks, happy because they didn't have to work so hard that day. But then after a while, people ain't get no money in their pocket. People start getting hungry. Right. And there's the women who were cooking large pots, and black people with money. Like it seems like the attitude was a little different back then, where wealthier black people felt obliged to help those who aren't, whereas now we're more on an individualistic sort of thing, right? But the women were the ones cooking these huge pots of soup and ensuring that people were fed. When people got imprisoned, sometimes 2 parents would get in prison and lock up for a few days. Who can watch the children? So it was just all of this family thing, and women held these things together. Ironically, this sort of disenfranchisement that women would have experienced, I have to admit, would have sort of pushed them in sort of these roles too. Like, yeah, your only job is stay in the house and cook and take care. So that would have sort of exacerbated that as well. However, these women did really step up to the plate.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. So what do you think has changed? What led to where we are today in terms of attitudes, and even in the attitudes of how we look at women in the past?
Well, I don't know if you want to take this one first, and I'll chime in after.
Because you talked a little bit about the 1950s, which is where we sort of move into mass politics or party politics, and with the development of suffrage, a lot of that is owed to the women's suffrage movement, so women becoming more public advocates for themselves. We see an emergence of an educated middle class, and women getting more educated, so they're able to speak up for themselves, appeal for themselves, and push for the vote. You know, they say lots of things, particularly to the House at that time. You're this big British colony, and women are getting the right to vote in Britain. What about us? What about us in the colony? Like my colleague mentioned, they're the supporters, the organizers. They are helping to raise funds for the men's campaigns. They are cooking, doing the cookouts, and all of these things. And so they are really starting to step to the forefront and really elevating themselves. Figures like Dr. Doris Johnson, who of course is educated, is addressing how can you say that you are for the masses of the people when you're eliminating the voices of half of your demographics. Right. And so our voices are important in what the constituents want. And so by 1961, the women's suffrage rights, the Voting Act is passed, and then they vote in 1962. And ever since then, as part of the electorate, we have really been contributing to the public space, to national development and heritage development. And so at Clifton, a part of that exhibit runs us through women's involvement in national development from the 18th century straight through the suffrage movement, and those artistic statues do represent all of those women across generations and into the future who have become part of our national landscape.
Certainly, right. And to add to it, Park, taking it a lot further back now, and on the front of the exhibit, and sort of the middle of it, it sort of speaks to, because we focus on these great African queens, like my personal favorite, Queen Amarinas, who pretty much styled Augustus Caesar in like the greatest way. Long story short, she drove his armies out, cut off like all of the heads of his statues and stuff, put it around the city. She was this fashionista, put the image of Augustus Caesar at the bottom of her sandals so that all of her subjects would be trampling on the head of her enemy. He sent his emissaries, and he came to come and see her. She said, man, I ain't get time to see her. He's a busy woman. But she sent one of her messengers with a bag of golden arrows and a message. If you come for peace, keep these arrows as a sign of my warmth and affection. If you come for war, you can still keep the arrows because you can need them. Solid gold arrows. And he turned around and kept it moving. And then we talk about women that started to resist, So, of course, the Queen and Zingas, and those that are also closely in Carlotta Lucami out of Cuba. She was from the Yoruba tribe, which is a huge makeup of us today. And the former was from Congo, Angola region, which is another huge makeup of us today. And then it brings you into this sort of transition where these women went from literally the symbols of God in the universe to being degraded and went from women, and excuse my French, to now be called wenches and stuff like that. And we talk a little bit about the abuse. But a lot of this is also rooted in something known as scientific racism. One of the most overlooked periods, a lot of women now, who's also featured on Exhibit B, by the way, a woman named Sarah Bartman, who in the late 1700s was put on display almost like an animal. And there's a caricature with Cupid standing up on the small of her back. And there's a caricature talking about how these African women were really sexualized. And it was meant to actually criticize the men who call themselves scientists. And I don't want to expound too much on the radio, but after her death, her body was displayed in museums, in particular one of them being the Louvre in France, right? And private parts, as well, Wow. And so these things are what actually happened to African women, the hypersexualization, the degradation. When you think about the dynamics on plantations and how it seems that there's this innate dysfunctioning between some black, not all, of course, but I would argue that a lot of that goes back to the days of slavery, right? So when you look at Clifton, for example, you have this area that we call the Great House area, the slave master's house, quote unquote, if you will, right? And that area was worked almost exclusively by women, and this was done for many reasons. Of course, you often found that the more physically appealing women, the ones that the slave master and his brother or whoever would have taken a liking to, tended to be those ones. But you also found all sorts of other women and girls. And it wasn't just about the carnal pleasures of the enslaver. It was also about power and control, right? Because if you're ready to do a full revolution and murder whoever's in your way of freedom, as you have a right to do in that time, him having his wife or your sister or your daughter near to him working in his house will certainly lessen your revolutionary resolve. And so even when you look at the way that Africa was conquered, our very own Ahanta people, the man they call the Great Whale, Badu Bonsu II, yet another great Ahanta king that fought against slavery in the mid-1800s. The Dutch were supposed to meet him on the battlefield. And one of the ways they swindled him was they didn't meet him on the battlefield. They just went around to villages and started to indiscriminately kill women and children to force his surrender. So there are things that we could say that would get extremely heavy. And even myself, I could remember discovering some of these things, particularly as it relates to Bahamian women. And I often find myself tearing up, in particular when I tell the story of Julia Winder Baptiste. It was just a horrible, horrible slave trading voyage. And the name of the ship and all, the ship is called the Jesus and Mary, and it just raises all of these questions. And, it's just a horrible, 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 horrible voyage and story. And all of those women and girls, I should say, who were victims of that were populated here in the Bahamas, and about half of them seem to have stayed in the long run. So we are in fact talking about our ancestors. And so the same feeling we have for our own grandmothers and stuff like that, I sort of exude towards these women as well. And many of them are unnamed too, so we shouldn't just focus on singular characters as well oftentimes. Right?
So with that, and especially the movement in the 50s, the progress being made in terms of the vote. As you heard before you all came in, we were talking about this earlier about gender inequality that still exists there. It seems like we were heading up in such a, reaching the mountain, and then we just stalled out there. What do we make of that, and why we only went so far?
These are legacies of colonialism. All of the oppression, assault, repression, they were features. They're not bugs in the system of imperialism and colonialism. They're features. And so when you examine modern day, you realize these are legacies of that system that got embedded into our nation. And so if we don't dig those out, the features start featuring, right? And one of which is gender imbalance. And these debates, they go back to actually writing of the Constitution. The way it's written always were meant to exclude women, because as much as our forefathers were revolutionary, they came up through a colonial system that featured things like gender imbalance,
Right.
gender exclusion. And really, we have to go back to the drawing board in order to balance out sort of these instances of gender exclusion.
And I think that in all facets of life, when we look for heroes, there's a tendency to look at politicians. And from the political standpoint, I don't think anybody could argue that there's been progress for women, right? Because they are highly represented. I think currently we have the most ever in cabinet and in parliament. But then again, that's only in parliament and in cabinet, right? We have issues of women passing on their citizenship rights. You know, I could be, now he's a married man, so that's just hypothetical. I don't want no clip, but I could be a very promiscuous fellow, have engagements with women all over the world and have kids with all of them. And all of those kids, as they should, would be allowed to be Bahamian if they so chose, right? But you have a woman who could go off to college, fall in love with a man who's not Bahamian. And I don't know if it's whether they come here or stay there, but it will just be a longer process for her. And even when you think about it rationally, not to get trapsy, but there's a reason why certain societies were matrilineal since ancient times, because, and I think there's even a Bahamian song about it, you know who your ma is.
But she ain't show you that is.
Don't care how much you look like him, it's a 0.000000001% chance, right? And even in that saying, there's a sexist undertone towards that hey, you can't trust these women, right? And you have the late, great Patricia Clinton McCollis and those who took images like the Garland, right? These are a part of our culture that was then sort of polluted and undignified within this sort of colonialism and imperialism. And then, these things were driven home, like we're talking about human zoos and these things existed until the 1950s throughout Europe. They had a little, and this is a part of our exhibit too, they had a little Congolese girl on display in Brussels, Belgium, until the late 1950s, feeding her like an animal and having us, to prove. So it's a lot. It's a lot that women
And
have
one of the other
overcome.
things I wanted to add too,
And still have to.
even when these constitutional documents are being created and drafted and debated, women were not at the table when they were drafted. They may have been in the back room typing or, making the copies.
Right.
And so sometimes, men who grow up in these culture, in their zeitgeist, it just doesn't occur to them. But also when women are not in the room, who advocates for women in the room? That's one layer. The other layer is when we got back to the gender referendum. Another feature of colonialism and imperialism is indoctrination and how people internalize certain ideas about themselves and what it means to be a woman, what's the relationship or the gender of the word leader, and how we sort of think about politics as being a space that doesn't include women.
Right.
And so we tend to want to exclude ourselves in these ways. And so all of these features really shaped what became our constitution and our legal practices. And so there are layers in this, and we have to pull back and look at the system and figure out, did we resolve all these bugs?
Right.
Because the bugs, once they resolve, you will start to see us move very quickly towards an equal stance.
And unfortunately, this is the part that I think is the biggest hurdle, because you then get into people's belief and stuff. But the reality is Christian dogma. So it doesn't mean just because you are a Christian that you are chauvinist or anything like that. We're talking specifically of Christian dogma within the context of chauvinism and misogyny, and we always see these things referenced. And I ain't gonna say that the Bible is saying this or that, but we could certainly say that the way that these things are interpreted.
Yes.
And you see the arguments that people have. And then a lot of it is just straight ignorance, right? So people conflate like gender with sexual orientation, and you see these things getting mixed up. I remember this vividly, when the referendum was happening and people was like, man, you're all trying to, I won't say the exact quote because people can know, but you're all trying to sneak this thing in. And there was a certain term, that's being used, and it was one of your colleagues who was really getting, I ain't gonna call her name, but who I think you understand who was getting a lot of chafing, and I learned so much myself about gender just listening to her during all of these debates and the talks that was going towards her, you know? But this is something we all have to swallow. And I think we just need to be men too, though we might not understand. And of course, we have our issues as well, you know? But when we're dealing with women issues, you know, we're supposed to be the protector. And then you have these disturbing, just viral moments of these red pill idiots who talk about women doing this and that. You know, you have to be smarter than that, you know. And this is another huge problem as well. And you see these things being expressed as well. And so, of course, we do know that there are issues with men. And it's not about forgetting about men or anything like that. But if you want to call yourself alpha male and all these things, every alpha male across the board is do one thing, and that's protect the women within his community. Every alpha male, whether it's the lion, the wolf, any other male lion come around there and even sniff one of them women, that's a fight. But that's not the attitude that these so-called alpha males seem to have today.
No, not around here.
Right.
Any opportunity to tear them down, they take it.
Certainly. Yeah.
We're talking with Christopher Davis and Joanna Parker with the Clifton Heritage Authority. So I got to ask you this. So we're 53 years in as an independent country. By this time, countries all around us would have made a number of changes to their constitution. Is there, you think, an historical reason why we might be reluctant, why we have not been successful in doing that as yet? What's the reason for this?
Here's my thing, and this for me spills over to other issues too. We could talk about why haven't we left the monarchy yet. These for people, for thinking people, for people who have even just a basic understanding of how the world works, who they are as people, and the history of the bond. That's the most basic understanding. We all hold certain sentiments, you know, but a part of it, and what we do, you see this even with the transatlantic slave trade, where a lot of blame is shifted to people who are even victims of the same system.
Yep.
And I argue, particularly in our modern history, you know, when you look at the Bahamas, Parker was sort of saying this off air, we have it on two sides. And I would argue that there was even 3 or 4 more sides. So when you think about the Cold War and what happened in Cuba, you know, I make a joke and say
we had to pull back from
so
communism and socialism.
So ain't too much of that government doing too much for y'all. Y'all sound like y'all leaning socialist.
So you couldn't even talk about being a republic.
And then to the south, we have who? Haiti. How dare Haiti? Dare they free themselves from slavery? You know, and then we have our big brothers up to the north. So a part of it was that, and I could tell you that many of these sentiments are still there. And in my personal belief, a lot of politicians who may hold the same sentiments that we do, you know, I won't call no names, but I can guarantee you there are politicians on both sides of the political, or on 3 sides, let's say, who hold these same sentiments and are probably equally as passionate about us. But we have to remember we live in this world truly of white supremacy. I ain't gonna call the name, but let's call them the imperialism of the 3 giants, right? So even now we see we have a very, let's say, aggressive, to use a kind word, leader of the free world right now, who is kind of jostling and flexing muscle everywhere. And you have citizens, not just the Bahamas, you see it in Barbados, and people being like, "Mom, me and Martin, you're supposed to go a little stronger on them, and Brave, you're supposed to go a little stronger than them, and Friday and Grenada, you're supposed to go a little stronger," forgetting that, man, so you all forget the nature of the beast. We forget 1983 when Grenada was actually invaded by the United States.
We had emerged as a nation into this context.
Thank you. Right.
So our leaders had to sort of tiptoe around these things in building themselves, because we come in as a black nation, like we're very,
100%.
you know, that's the image of that, but we had to, we say that, but we had to maneuver very carefully around that, and so that may have led us to not pushing so fast to dismantle some of the embedded inequalities in those structures.
All right, well, that explains the first 20, 30, 40 years. Why are we still seeing this?
Now, that being said, boy, I could get in trouble for this one. That being said, you know, there is this culture of calling all those things we talked about. We have adopted these ideas of the enslaver, of the colonizer, and stuff like that. For example, all the stuff we now know about Bethel Baptist Church, even the little that we expounded there, you don't think that would be a more appropriate place to have state funerals as opposed to the church of which Chucky Boy, a.k.a. King Charles, is the head of. I just saying, where our enslavers are actually interned. This literally is the institution that perpetuated slavery, interned it, just used the Bible to justify it. This is the institution that we are talking about.
But you had to internalize it to exist in the system.
Right, exactly.
Mentally, you have to align with something to to survive in the system.
Right.
So as a woman, I know that I face oppression, but if I just internalize it and become the best version of a woman according to that system, I can survive. And that happens with color, that happens with gender, that happens with sexuality. And we have to internalize the principles, because the person who imposed the system can't do it all. It needs you to do it for them.
I hope people listen to what you just said and listen to this tonight. That's some deep stuff there.
Yeah, you know. And so these things have become a part of us and who we are, you know. One of my favorite scholars, Ivan van Sertima, he says, you know, we have colonization as we pretty much just European duplicates, you know, and these are certain tough pills to swallow, you know. And I think that that's why, despite the fact that some leaders have a thought, you know, there's still this fear, and that fear is sort of internalized. But is there a reason why we can't move our state funerals to a Baptist church that was founded by us, for us, by our ancestors, and that fought against slavery as opposed to perpetuating it? Right, you see? So, you know, and me, myself, I have godfathers who are Anglican priests, so it's not a stab on any personal person that follows the Anglican faith, but these are just historical truths. And then you do have a certain status quo along class lines, along racial lines, and along gender lines. And you could even throw sexual orientation in there if you want to, you know, who sort of benefit and or comfortable. Some people don't benefit, but they just comfortable within that system, right? Then you have this fancy term, cognitive dissonance, where, like she said, it's not just internalized. It's literally where you almost live in a lie, and deep down in your soul, these sentiments are there, but you just shove them all the way down
because you feel this is what you need to do to survive.
And we see it when they come to us, you know, at the end of a tour or at the end of our program. I didn't know that, and they look both happy to hear that, but shocked, scared, worried, because how do I incorporate this information, this new paradigm that challenges the identity I built? Because being Bahamian means things that don't look like what they look on the outside. It does mean being conservative, Christian, you know, very un-African, whatever, you know, you want to take from that, aligning with certain standards of European beauty. You know, we a lot of us are very much enamored with cultures that are imported to us. And so, you know, at Clifton, sometimes that's going to be challenged because we're very, very culturally tied into the past and things that people wanted to forget. But we sort of help you grapple with confronting those internalized narratives that really didn't come from us. They were put on us.
Wow. This person says there's a text. Since Charles is the head of state, so goes the state church.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
So I don't know. See, that's why texting sometimes is difficult because depending on the tone that was said, that could be super true. And like, give me a dap, or it could be like, what on earth are you doing?
Right, exactly. So, exactly. Give us a call, folks. 323-6232, 325-4316. 325-4259 or toll free 242-300-5720. While we have you, want to get your reaction to this. We talked about it a bit yesterday on the show, but the UN General Assembly and trying to get countries around the world to recognize enslavement as the gravest crime against humanity. And we know the 3 countries who voted no, and the 52 countries that abstained. But your reaction to this?
I mean, as you know, I also serve under the great Dr. Niambi, you know, in the reparations committee. Shout out to them. Shout out to her and the excellent work that she has been doing. For me, I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed. There was a lot of, because it seems like the royal family to their credit, was going in certain directions. You see the stripping of Andrew, even Harry and them. They express certain sentiments that would fool us to believe that these people are in fact different and trying to move in another direction.
Almost apologize.
Yeah,
almost
right,
apologize.
yeah. But if you ain't even want to say sorry to someone, it obviously means you don't care for them, you don't love them, you don't care about the relationship. I mean, that's on a person-to-person level, you know. And then you remember they returned some of our files and all of these things recently, you know. And again, I think it's a struggle to get the right people in the room in certain discussions. Dr. Nyambi, I don't know if she was there or how involved she would have been. And all of but they ain't gonna let the CARICOM Reparations Committee come there, because those are the people who can really be able to explain to these people that make these decisions about apologizing, you know. But for me, it's just disgusting, you know. But on many levels, there's things we could do. It's not just about cutting a check, right? We spoke about off air, and I got to give you credit for bringing this up when you was like, you know, when we was talking about the Chinese and the hotel, and then the British
hospital.
Oh, sorry, the hospital. So sorry. And then the British came in and was like, "Oh yeah, man, we could give you all a loan."
More
And it was
favorable
like,
terms.
Yeah, what loan? You know, let's remember, Princess Margaret Hospital was built by them, for them. That on the north side of the hill. And there's a place called Hospital Lane, and the next place we had Old City Market. That was the hospital you used to have to go to. That hospital was built when I believe our population was less than 100,000 people, and it's named after her. You can make the same parallel with His Majesty's Prison, which is severely overpopulated. I know for years we had like in the top 30 at one point, like worst prisons in the world. You understand what I'm saying?
If not top 10.
Right, exactly. And these things were built by them, right? Even in this current thing, to digress just a little bit, you know. And again, this don't mean, like when I talk about racism and stuff like that, and I might pick, I mean, I wouldn't say pick, but highlight the words of a particular person that exuded racism. It don't mean necessarily that the people that might represent them today or their descendants are these people that hold the same values or sentiments. In fact, oftentimes you might find it's the opposite.
Right.
However, I ain't gonna call the name, but there's a school in Grand Bahama named after him. And he was very much involved with a hot topic right now. I did send this to you on a personal level, and I'm sure you saw it, where this man in the 21st century was expressing sentiments of bringing the scaffold back, bringing back British Empire, how nations like Nigeria and all these other nations were better off under colonization. And
Better off for who?
Yeah, exactly. And then how he styles himself as the Cecil John Rose of the Bahamas and all type of foolishness. You understand what I'm saying? And these are the people that are running things, you see. So people act like when slavery ended, then when majority rule happened, like racism went away.
Right.
And, you know, and the world is run by economics. And that's it at the end of the day. And we often talk about the wealth disparity, things not trickling down, but we forget about that old money. And there seems to be a very strong energy towards the former number boys, towards people of a darker hue with wealth, if I would say, because it's so normalized. You know, this comes into all of these issues that we were talking about as well. Now, what does this have to do with reparations? Reparations exist on so many levels, but what we could start with is when you work at about the $23 million or so that would be worked out of the chunk of the $20 billion or so that came out when our enslavers were in fact compensated. And you could take that 23 million and invest that towards healthcare, toward whatever we decide it go towards. That's on a government level. For me, I don't even see why that's an issue, because we haven't even gotten down to the institutional level where there's certain institutions, and even down to the family level, which exists.
But sorry to interrupt, but they can't. They can't ever acknowledge.
Right.
Because that then exposes the system from which they still dominate and benefit. So if I acknowledge, that is going to start a runaway train that I can't pull back. Because like you said, racism is the justification for the system, the economic system, which was colonialism, which moved into capitalism. Decolonization only created a new system from which they still benefit. So we can't go back and say it was wrong to start it, because then people are going to start to dismantle it.
But whatever we try to do with our economies that were in a shambles when they left us, these same countries that abstained will blacklist us and put all kinds of
I call it whitelisting.
all kinds of demands that are impossible for a country like ours to meet. So we nothing's changed. It's safe, or very
things have changed, of course. We are still in this survival mode, but it's not as acute as it would have been. So the progress is there to see, and this is why we celebrate our Martin Luther Kings, our Lyndon, Oscar Pinlands, our Malcolm X's and all of those people like Pompey and Dick DeVoe. Why we celebrate them. But we still have so many rivers to cross, and the system is still there, and it just manifests itself in different ways. And that's on the continent of Africa and throughout the entire African diaspora. Right?
Let's see if we can squeeze these calls in really quickly. Time is going very fast. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, morning, Dwight, and your guest. 3 quick questions. So if we talk about reparations for the black, are we also going to talk? I try to make quick, and then y'all could respond afterwards.
Yeah.
Is there reparations for the women who would have been mistreated over whatever amount of years? Is that something that also be looked at? Now the women will say we need reparations. Secondly, is this available? Mr. Davis and the lady, they're speaking a lot of stuff I wasn't aware of. I have kids. I would like them to get exposed to that information, like the salt water. So whatever that was, is this available that we can actually see this? Or I could take my kids on it, whether it's in the Bahamas and then throughout the U.S. or wherever. Where can I find that information? Is available on a website? Thank you. Also, Christianity, is there a conflict with me being a Christian and also being African? Am I expected to hold the view of what my ancestors' religion held? Thank you so much.
So I'll let Ms. Parker, you take the first 2, I'll take the last one.
Okay, so in terms of women receiving reparations, the whole reparatory justice framework is for all of the people who would have been disadvantaged by these systems. And so that would include women. And so I don't know if one fund is labeled black women, black men, but all of the people who have been poorly used are entitled to reparatory justice. Second of all, what we were talking about with the saltwater Underground Railroad and others, you can come and visit Clifton. We are a national park located here on New Providence.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of information if you Google it too.
Yes,
you
can.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about it until you were here last month, and I looked up. I'm like, this is unbelievable.
So I have like 2 chapters in my book, Black Rinse, that kind of focus on this, and also maroonage in the Bahamas. We could probably make that the next show if we want to. That's and that's a part of my sort of semi-seminal research as well.
And the last question about
so there's there's a lot of people that conflict when they start to learn about certain historical truths, the way the Bible was used, Christianity, and all that. I'll quote one of my other favorite historians, Dr. Ben Yosef Yakinen, where he said belief and behavior is 2 different things. And what we're talking about here is actually politics. Now, religion, of course, is intertwined in that politics, and religion and our beliefs affects our political outlook and our political action. What we're really talking about is politics. So I could highlight Toussaint Louverture, one of the original leaders of the Haitian Revolution, who was a black Catholic. I could point to Nat Turner, the leader of the most infamous and probably bloody uprising in the United States in Virginia. And they canceled John Canoe in Virginia after that, by the way, side note.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, he essentially was a preacher and a chariot driver, and his job was to go around and to teach enslaved people about Jesus and the Bible and stuff like that. And of course, the late and the greatest of the greatest, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, was also a Christian, right? And then when you even look at the Bible itself, you have many African people that are in the Bible. The problem is there has been a lot of tampering throughout the years that I don't really want to get too in depth, but that's a whole nother show on its own. But at the end of the day, as Parker said, we had this economic system, then racism came out. Racism was the codifying and the creation of a totem pole that essentially placed Africans at the bottom, and the more they wanted to press it lower on the totem pole, it kind of ended up. And then this way you saw things coming out like the curse of Ham and all that. So there is this complex thing. to shout out one of your colleagues, Anku Sarah. This is the Coptic Church is sort of based in all of this. Hey, this Bible is this, and this is a Eurocentric version that does come from truth but was polluted. And here is our way of showing you where all this stuff come from, right? So that's actually what the Coptic Church is all about. That's why Anku would say all these strange names. He's of me on Google, and he talking this weird language. These are some of the original languages, right? So what you find is that you have people leading towards that too. And then you even have the Baptist Church and all of that. But even you could find that people belong to the Eurocentric denominations like Catholic. Joseph Robert Love was an Episcopal Anglican. Man, I wouldn't dare say I'm
So
more
they're not
African
incompatible.
than them. Right, they're not incompatible, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'll just end it on that one there.
Okay. All right. Again, let people know how they can find out more information, where to reach you, and how to get to Clifton, what they need to do.
So Clifton Heritage Park is at Clifton Pier, essentially. I'm there almost every day. You can visit our website as well, cliftonheritageauthority.com. And you have several options. If you want to bring a large group of kids, you could sign up for one of our official educational tours. Or you could come there with just yourself and a date or just a small group of people and take the Heritage Tour. And when you sign up, when you call, however you sign up, you can also make a request to have me do the tour. And you could request literally any topic. So if you've heard of mention the Saltwater Underground Railroad, you could say, hey, that's what we want to learn about, and I'll make sure I'm there to do that. Her story, we have an entire educational program about that. And we also sort of taper our tours and our program to your needs on that date.
So we can customize.
Excellent stuff. One more time, give your numbers for Clifton.
For the education program, it's 803-6870. That's 803-6870.
And you can visit the website. I think that's the easiest way, CliftonHeritageAuthority.com.
Okay.
CliftonHeritageAuthority.com. Everything is laid out there and nice and simple. And then you could also give it a call. The number's also right there. And request me if you so chose as well. Yeah.
All right. Excellent stuff. Always a great discussion. Joanna Pinder, Christopher Davis. Parker, where am I? I can't read my handwriting. I don't know what that is. Joanna Parker, Christopher Davis, thank you both for being here this morning. See you next month with our monthly history series here and the Clifton Heritage Authority. All right, so that is going to do it for us today. I'll be back on Monday with more Morning Blend business. Stay tuned. We're going to go to the special national address the Prime Minister Philip Davis is going to be giving this morning. We're going to carry that right here on Guardian Radio. Stay with us.
Patients will be taken off very shortly. Should be wheels up in about 40 minutes. And due to a bumpy ride, snacks and beverage service has been suspended. AC has given us some trouble. Sorry, folks. And Wi-Fi is out. And so is the entertainment. Yeah, I'm sorry about the smell, folks. We are aware.
I know.
Just one more quick note. We are going to have to deplane.
Come on! We're like the plane ride that isn't a nightmare. CG Atlantic Agents and Brokers. Good like that.
Planning for retirement can be overwhelming, but with CFAL, it doesn't have to be. We offer tailor-made individual, group, and pension solutions that take the guesswork out of retirement planning. Whether it's for you or your company, don't leave your future to chance and let the trusted hands of CFAL's experts guide you toward peace of mind and financial stability. Low upfront costs and affordable monthly payments make it easy for you to build wealth so you can live well. Visit us at cfal.com to start on your path toward financial freedom. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
Looking for the perfect venue to inspire, celebrate, and connect? Welcome to Clifton Heritage National Park, one of the most unique event destinations in the Bahamas. Planning a wedding, birthday, or concert? Our breathtaking backdrops, whether it's Johnston Beach, Turtle Pen, or the historic ruins. Transform every event into something unforgettable. For creators, Clifton is a dream. From photo shoots to film productions, every corner of the park offers stunning visuals. Natural, historic, and truly Bahamian. And sometimes it's simply about slowing down. Treat your team, your family, or yourself to a beach day reset. Soft sands, calm waters, shaded spots, and a beach bar ready to serve. At Clifton Heritage National Park, your event becomes more than a gathering. It becomes a memory. Celebrate with us, create with us, reset with us. Clifton Heritage National Park, your destination for unforgettable experiences. Come and see Clifton Heritage.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.